Nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. Fun time had by all. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my gang, my quorum. We've got David.
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
We've got Drew.
Howdy, I had to double check that my microphone was on because I do that a lot.
Yes. And of course, we got in our rotating fourth chair, Bryce.
Hi.
Woo!
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to talk about Love Bites.
Yes. We're going to talk about an album. We're talking about some music provided by David. David, what have you got for us this week?
PD Rave, Record Breakers, listeners, and fans across the lands. This album is a result of something that happens to me inside of my brain from time to time, where I am occasionally overly inundated with certain various genres of music, and I end up having to go in the complete extreme opposite direction to kind of cleanse my mind and give myself a little bit of a sanity check. And in the case of this particular part of the world, a lot of East Asian music that I find myself interested in usually goes along the lines of Bradio, Tokyo Groove Joshi, The Thrill, a lot of big band, jazz, funk kind of stuff. But as the de facto metalhead on the Record Breakers podcast, sometimes we need to crank it to 11. And Japan has plenty of metal. There's Loudness, there's X-Japan, there's Lazy, Church of Misery, and the list goes on and on and on, including the visual K genre, if you're into that sort of thing. No judgment here. You've probably seen in recent years, as with other genres of music in Japan and Korea, that there are a lot more women now involved than you'd see in the past, and metal is no exception, especially power metal. Fast guitars, soaring vocals, and lyrics about overcoming monsters, conquering evil, and living your best life at 200 miles an hour. This band formed in 2016 after another band, Destros, disbanded. They are called LOVEBITES. They play heavy metal, and the album I brought today is their third album from 2020 entitled Electric Pentagram.
Let's look forward to that. Let's talk about expectations. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Only that I knew it was metal, but I didn't know what style of metal we were getting into. Metal is a very diverse genre in tone, in composition, so it's something that it could go a lot of different places. But other than that, I really had no expectations, including some surprises when I opened up the Wikipedia that I was not expecting. So we'll wait for that.
Bryce, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I do know a good bit of Japanese music, but not as much in the metal scene. And so I really didn't have too much of an expectation. I know that, like David was saying, there are a lot of other more novelty acts. I think if you say Japan and metal, then people would say like baby metal. And so I like baby metal for being its own thing, and it is a little novel, but it is the reason people like it is that it's very authentic and that it sits just as well with all of the other acts in the genre. So I did not look it up too much other than having known that, but I actually, the thing I didn't expect was the female vocalists, or that it was a female band.
Yeah. This was on my radar as an album to bring into the show. a couple of like different artists and different albums. I was specifically looking at female fronted metal bands from Japan, like and there's a few, and I won't there's a couple cool names that I'm still looking at and still looking at bringing, and I'm looking forward to those. But there's a nice subset of really talented bands, really talented musicians out there making dope metal, making great like exciting metal in Japan, and with women at the helm. And I think that's dope, and I'm looking forward to diving into this album because it's part of that, and it kind of like clears up a spot in my queue of albums to bring onto the show, so that helps me out a lot. But let's talk about this album musically. David, how would you describe this album musically?
Unrelenting. There's no kind of shtick or gimmick behind Love Bites. They're not trying to brand themselves as anything other than a metal band that fits in with any other metal band out there. They play fast, they play loud, and they play with energy. Their two guitarists, Miyako and Midori, they are as good of a harmonizing guitar duo as you'll find in the genre. Their vocalist, Asami, sings as if she could fit in any power metal band in the world. The Iron Maiden influence is all over this band. The Iron Maiden influence is strong. There's the occasional dip into more riff-based metal, kind of an 80s vibe, but for the most part, this is power/thrash metal with a little sprinkle of kind of 80s new wave of British heavy metal sprinkled on top. But you are going to have to sit down, strap in, and hold the fuck on.
Yes. Yeah. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, first of all, I must have forgotten entirely the mention of Japan, because like that surprised me. The sound coming out of this was varied, but not what I was expecting coming out of that. Also, 2020 made me choke on a drink that I was drinking, because if you would have told me this would have came out in the 80s, I would have believed you. There is a lot of, I feel like, that era of metal to a lot of this, and from varied like locations, right? There's a lot of different influence. I feel like in metal sometimes you get either we're going to take this genre and we're going to, or this like milieu of metal, and we're going to sort of put a little bit of a spin on it, but we're going to learn a lot from that group of people and that history. Or you have, let's take heavy metal and like inject a bunch of different genre and feel and stuff into it. And I feel like this is somewhere in the between space of both of those, which I really dug. You get a lot of, like I said, like 80s and 90s influence. You get power metal driven bits. You get insane thrash bits. You get those classical ideals and parts. There was a person who passed away in our metal scene that was in a band that was becoming very popular. And the thing with that was he came into the school one time to sort of talk about his passing and stuff like that. And the thing that happened was he talked about like the brilliance that can be lost, and talked about their writing style a little bit. And when you slow down metal music, sometimes, a lot of times, you get very classical ideals, and it sounds almost orchestral in spots. And that there was a lot of that here, and I really, really dug that. Also, there was some video game influence, I feel like, which we'll get into in some of these songs. And I'm always down for a little bit of that, because it feels like you could the one song specifically, which I will mention later, feels like you could have plucked it from an NES game in certain ways, but
yeah.
we'll get into that, I guess.
Bryce, how would you describe this album musically?
You know, I'm a metal outsider, so I'm gonna say all the wrong stuff. But I thought it was actually the thing that really surprised me was how clean it sounds for very heavy, high energy, threshy sort of metal. And it's an interesting contrast because like Drew was saying, like you hear all of the little technical marvels when you hear it so clean and kind of just so presented so up front. And then the other thing is like the singing not being, you know, screamo, having its own kind of poppy, kind of diva-y sort of element to it that doesn't feel like pop music, like a pop music gimmick or something lesser. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really drives in a really great intensity. It has an epicness and a grandness that really is great. It's got some great face melters. It'll shred your face, man. The vocals are soaring in really great ways. And they have like a anthemic feel to a lot of it, including the vocals, including the musicianship. It is it doesn't get like, it doesn't overstay as well. It finds a really great like pace with all the tracks, and there's a lot of really great like cool stuff, and it is that classic power metal, classic epic Wheedleys and Meadleys and Deedleys. You know, you got the great guitar solos are fantastic, and it's just so tight. And really, like, my favorite thing is the vocals. The vocals are just on point and beautiful and soaring and epic and grand and like, but in a way that isn't, you know, overly processed or overly tightened. It is just epic. You know, it's like it's just a great sound, and I love chicks kicking ass. I love, you know, the ladies doing kick-ass metal. So this is it right in my wheelhouse. As the you know, some other things that I brought onto the show can attest to. It isn't like, there's no gimmick, there's no shtick. They're not, you know, I love Bandmade, but they have, you know, you can see that they have like a thing. They have a gimmick where they're the Maid Cafe thing. They don't feel the need to go to that. They're just a tight performing, fantastically talented metal band, and like the fact that the title of this album was meant to like reassure metal fans that they weren't going to go pop was really fantastic, and I love that. It's like, yeah, no, we're sticking to our guns, and we're doing our thing, and that's awesome. But yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Let's drill in. David, what would be some of the key tracks that you would zero in on?
Oh man. I will talk about a little bit later in the conclusive thoughts why signature tracks was a bit of a challenge, but I will start with track 2, Holy War. It has this big, heavy riff with a great accompanying keyboard on top, and it really has become something of a live staple for them. If you look up reactions to Love Bites, it's usually this song, and they're usually playing it live. And oh man, do they play this song live. The technical expertise and just the level of performance is next level with this song. When Destinies Align, track 6, it has some big dual guitar harmonies that lead into its main melody that is really, really excellent. And it really just reminds you that these ladies are not messing around. And I think that Dancing with the Devil, track 8, is probably the most classic heavy metal song on the album. It's got a riff, it's got a groove, it's got a little bit of 80s hard rock, maybe kind of a Skid Row, Whitesnake thing going on, but it doesn't go full glam because everyone knows you never go full glam.
Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, the Thunder Vengeance, that like sort of almost angelic sounding synth that comes in, like that sound is amazing into like the power metal that's like makes me want to scream riding a horse with a sword, sort of just like amazingness. I love that sort of stuff. I think I've said before, like one of my favorite metal albums is literally called Battle Metal by a band called Curry Sauce. So I have likes in metal, and that's one of them. Golden Destination. If you don't get Mega Man 2 vibes off that guitar, I don't know what you're doing. That intro, like the first like 30 to 45 seconds. And then galloping guitar is always something, the chugga-chug, chugga-chug, chugga-chug sort of guitar driving forward. Love it. Will always love it. Stick with the video game themes. Set the World on Fire. There is something about this that if they do, like, it has to be, I was thinking, okay, what would have fast-paced boss battles that would have you like bouncing around a lot? And the only thing I can think of is if they did like a gritty, like hard edge Sonic reboot.
Yeah.
Like just do
You're
Sonic.
speaking my language, brother.
Have From Software redo Sonic Adventure and those chaos battles. I would be super for it. I don't know what he's aiming at. There's probably going to be some sort of. There's a Sonic poster in the corner. Yep. But Sonic Adventure, as done by like From Software, get Elden Ring aesthetic, but Sonic bouncing at chaos. I knew that would be super cool. Just also like a gnarled up Sonic would be awesome, but that's okay. But also ending with Swan Song. It sounds like the beginning of like the most like heavy metal anime that could ever be, and I'm super here for it. If somebody hasn't used it as like an anime intro, it needs to be. Like there's something about that like the characters need to be popping up and like people need to be going off to battles and stuff.
I have the anime for you. I'll let you know offline.
Yes.
Okay.
Look forward to it. Yeah. Bryce, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of what's been said already, but like Holy War is great. When Destinies Align is great. I think my favorite is Swan Song. I love how they worked in the classical musical pieces without feeling like, oh, they're doing the classical music. Like it feels very organic as a part of the song instead of just like, I don't know. I'm so used to like Pump It Up, where they would take classical music and then put like a little beat or something under it, and that would be a fun new song.
Down,
and so
left, right.
So I'm always a little wary about when classical motifs come in, but I think it works fantastically there, and it's a great way to wrap up the album. I think the only thing that kind of made it tough to pick other favorites was that it's a very consistent album.
Yes. Yeah, it is tough to like zero in on particular tracks because it's consistent and kind of like and the tracks have a nice consistency, but yeah, it starts off great with Thunder Vengeance. Holy War kind of like establishes a great pace. I think I love songs like Dancing with the Devil, Set the World on Fire, and Swan Song is just a nice little wrap up. And I think like the classical parts fit in well without being out of place, and the metal is just tight. But pretty much everything that you guys kind of like touched on, I concur. Let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole? As you chew.
As I chew. So this album was one of those things where I have a very love-hate relationship with metal. Either I really, really dig it, or like it's just like, I'm never gonna listen to this again. This is one of those albums that really struck a chord with me. It had everything I like in metal. It had soaring vocals. It had intricate guitar work from both the bass and the sixth string. It had just driving drums, all in a package that was fun while not being like overtly comedic or anything like that. This wasn't, like you said, it wasn't played off as a joke or anything like that. They didn't go pop or go crazy with it. This isn't a gimmick. This is just who they are, and they went for it. And I can respect it. And I very much, sorry, burp there. Very much enjoyed myself.
Bryce, what will be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's really, really well. It's really well done, to put it bluntly. But like, I think the recording is clean, and I think you see a lot of the technical expertise and a lot of the kind of raw energy that you want out of such an intense genre and an intense sound. I think, my only criticisms are some of it is a little samey to me. I don't know all of the intricacies as well, so I don't have as much of an ear for them. And so like, I think it's good. I bet you could probably lose a few tracks, but I think for as casual as I'm saying that is as casual as I would care either way. So, but it's great. I'm gonna check out more of their stuff after this though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a fantastic album. This is a fun album. This is a really great example, and I'm looking forward to like jamming more Love Bites in my life. I'm looking forward to bringing more of this to the show and having a little bit more of this in the show, because it's going to be really fun to talk about these like really cool different albums. This is like, it's just great technical skill, great like intensity. It's I mean, if I were to sum it up, I would use an old hand signal and say it's too much metal for just one hand, right there. put the two hands together, just right there. Bring back that term. Too much metal for just one hand. Yeah, last but not least, David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I will say that I absolutely understand where Bryce is coming from when he says that there is a consistency that becomes almost repetitive. And I will admit, this is 70 minutes, 12 tracks of non-stop heavy metal onslaught. It is a lot. This is a bullet train of an album. There are no breaks. So taking breaks with this is totally okay. Yeah. There are no power ballads on this album. There are no soft songs on this album. It is 10 tons of metal. Now, for me, as someone who really appreciates metal a lot, I really got a kick out of it. I really was able to just really sink my teeth into all of this like a 5-course meal. For me, it's like Love Bites are here to prove a point that they can rock with the best metal bands in the world. And they have made large appearances at large festivals with other metal bands, and they fit right in. If you're a fan of bands like Stratovarius, Halloween, my personal favorite power metal band, Blind Guardian, Gamma Ray, and maybe even Nightwish, you will like Love Bites. if you saw baby metal, and for them, you might see them as a gateway, a gateway band into the metal genre. Love Bites is probably the next advanced level. And if you liked that, give Love Bites a shot to really get yourself some extra metal. Back in the 80s, James Hetfield used to say, when Metallica was really starting to break out, he would announce that they were coming on stage, and he would say, if you came here to see spandex, makeup, and the words "Oh baby" in every fucking song, this ain't the fucking band. And I got a kick out of that, because listening to Love Bites and seeing them play live, the thing that came to me said, if you came here to see dance routines, idols, and kawaii shit, this ain't the fucking band. And as it says on their English webpage, this is Love Bites, and they play heavy metal. And it's great.
Yes. So yeah, look forward to go check out Love Bites and go check out their albums. There's a lot to really enjoy there.
A lot,
but it's enjoyable. Now we get to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, the Haiku Reviews, where we sum it all up in poetic form, hit you with the 575. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. Drew, what is your haiku?
Expected, not close, but it was better than that.
Ooh.
Let's get to battle.
Yes. Bryce, what is your haiku?
This love bite might bite, but it doesn't really bite. It good bite, not bad bite.
Yes. My haiku: great epic metal, soaring anthemic guitars, some good face meltage. And last but not least, David, what is your haiku?
A metal barrage. Love Bites are unrelenting. 10 tons of fun ride.
Yeah, you can check out Love Bites Electric Pentagram on our Spotify playlists. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. Play along at home. You have the two playlists, one with the album, with the episodes slotted in, one without, so you can pick your poison to follow along and do your homework. On that Spotify playlist, presumably, will be next week's record, and it's going to be provided by Drew. Drew, what have you got for us?
So, I'm bringing something from my neck of the woods. It's a record from a guy from Cleveland. It's going to be Man on the Moon, The End of Day by Kid Cudi.
Nice. So look forward to that. Get some Kid Cudi in our life. But that'll be next week, and this is this week. Hit this button. Going. Yes. You can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Drew's at Extra I'm at PD Rave. Bryce is at Brightcast. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com if you want to hit us with an email. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. On Twitch, we stream this podcast. We also stream our D&D show Through the Tomes. We also do some game streams, including the Witcher stream with me and Daisy, Mass Effect. I just did a couple episodes, a little bit of Tunic. Sometimes we pop into Hades to do a run or two. A lot of fun stuff. Just check out the channel, follow us there for group stuff and for solo stuff. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. Check out the show notes on the website. Check out the links for everything on the website. Do all the calls to action things with buttons. There should be some recommended videos. Until next time, hasta los huevos. Annyeong.
Live long and sensors.
Fighting.
Toodaloo.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.